So I wanted to explain Dota to this one guy. I don't know if he's still there, but I know there's probably some. Yeah, I'm here, I stayed. Okay, great. Oscar fan. Oscar fan said he's interested in Dota preliminarily, but doesn't know left from right yet, and he normally watches Warcraft 3. Dota 2 is a very complex game, and if someone teaches you how Dota 2 works, you will start playing and you'll realize it doesn't always go as you've been taught, which can be confusing. It took me like 1500 to 2000 games in Dota to be able to start doing independent thinking. When you start playing a very complicated game, it can be really good to initially copy from others, to copy guides, tips, frameworks for how to play. And then in 1500 games, you'll realize that people don't always follow this. Like, I just had a bad support that you've heard me rant about a bit, that he's not doing what he's supposed to do. It's kind of like playing basketball and learning that it's not a contact sport, that you can block each other without touching each other, and then they're not allowed to shoot. And then you start playing and you get like bumped around in street basketball, and like people are like bumping into you with their shoulder check and stuff. You realize, hey, this is not how I've been taught the rules of the game. So not having any physical strength and just aiming well is not enough. So you work on your physical strength. Dota 2, you work on your mental strength, and you try to be resilient when things don't go as like how you've expected them to be. Okay, let's give a little bit of a quick rundown on how Dota 2 works for those that don't know. The green side on the bottom left, as you see over here, is called Radiant, and this is your Ancient. If the Ancient blows up, you lose the game. The top right side is red, and they're called Dire. It's Radiant versus Dire. The map is roughly symmetrical, but actually not totally symmetrical at all. If you notice, this tower is surrounded by scraggled wood. But here, it's more dense, and here there's in fact a ramp that isn't around here at all. So the map is not symmetrical, and in fact right now it's a little bit like chess in that white has an advantage over black, and in Dota, Radiant, the green one, has an advantage over red. But these things change. What never changes is that it's Radiant versus Dire. Dota gets patches, small and big, throughout the year, so how the game is played changes a lot. But there's a couple of things that are currently true. You have 5 versus 5, and these heroes are called 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1 is also paraphrased to be called safe lane. 2 is mid lane. 3 is off lane. 4 is soft support, and 5 is hard support. Very roughly what it means: 1 is someone that can kill everyone, that may have a weak early game, but is a monster mid to late game. There are different definitions possible, but that's kind of how you should see them. They build to kill everyone. And how is this done? Most of the value that the team can accrue on the map is tried to be funneled to them. They are protected, they are given space, they're given money and experience. And they're given time. That's everything that the safe lane, the carry, the 1 is given. 2 is the mid lane. Mid lane in Dota 2, right now at least, it wasn't always the case, plays solo. It's a 2-1-2 formation. 2 top, 1 mid, 2 bot. And what that means is that you're not sharing experience with anyone else in this one-on-one matchup. And that means you'll be leveling up faster than other people. And because of that, you're the first to reach your ultimate at level 6. And that ultimate can be used to bully people, to get ganks and to get kills. A gank is when you go to another lane and you kill people that are there. You help your 2 people that are there and you kill one of the 2 of the opponent. It's not just your ult that you get earlier, right? Because you're leveling faster on account of being solo, you get all of your abilities at higher level than others. Your net worth growth is not necessarily better than other. Net worth being the amount of gold you get from creeps or hero kills. It's not necessarily better, but your level is higher. So 3 is your offlane. In the current meta, but not always true, offlane is someone that initiates fights, that is also a strong farming core, a core being 1, 2, 3. They are the net worth gatherers. And farming means when you hit neutral creeps or jungle creeps, or and so on. So the off lane is someone that also is a core, but they are more subservient in some way to the mid lane and the safe lane. They often initiate fights together with their supports, and then the one watches from the shadows until it's safe to go in, and then strikes. It's not always like this, there's so many exceptions, but this is often how it feels a bit. Number 4, soft support. 3 and 4 go together to one lane. They're quite close in their net worth accrual. 3 is allowed to get net worth before 4, and that means if there's a last hit on a creep or a hero, 3 should get it before 4. And the difference between these heroes sometimes isn't big in their hero design. But what is usually different is that the type of heroes that play on 3 benefit a lot from the extra net worth, as it gives them tankiness, mobility, damage and utility. And the 4 usually, and again this has exceptions, the people that play support, they play heroes that are slightly less net worth reliant than 3. That means their abilities are good even without adding a lot of gold items to it. Again, major exceptions, but 4 is supposed to be able to get things done without a lot of money compared to the 3. And there are a lot of exceptions. But the idea is that at least in the first 10 minutes, 4 is supposed to give a bit more space, net worth and comfort to the 3. So if the 4 is doing a very bad job, then 3 will have a bad start. Then 3 cannot start to frontline for the team or create space for the team, and then has to become more passive and become kind of like a second safe lane carry comfort player. And that means there's very little pressure on the enemy team. But this goes a little deeper. Understand at least that 3 and 4 go together. And 5 hard support goes together with 1. The best metaphor for this is that 5 is the babysitter and 1 is the baby. And you often find that this is also emotionally true for people that play safe lane. They usually have the emotional maturity of a baby. And the 5 is supposed to feed them gruel in the form of tangos. They're supposed to feed them vision, create space, sacrifice themselves, jump in front of a bullet, right? Hand feed them kills like a mother lion to their cubs, already a half mangled deer, and it's like, here, go ahead, you did it, good job, ruffle their hair. So what kind of heroes are 5s? 5s usually are heroes that have good lockdown, right? They have some form of lockdown. Slows, roots, stuns, redirects, silences, etc. And this lockdown helps the one in lane and even late game to get the kill. Or they can be safe supports, which is to say when someone on your team gets engaged upon, you can save them with a button that makes them invulnerable to damage, makes them phase out of existence, makes them have a lot of armor, a lot of healing, etc. So in 5, you'll most often see heroes that in other MOBAs are considered a healer, like an Uther or a Brightwing in HOTS. Or you'll see heroes that have a lot of lockdown, like Shadow Shaman, Lion, a lot of stuns. So that's kind of the rundown on what every hero is per role. And then let's talk about why they go where they go. If we go back to the start of this replay, we see this. I paused the game. Note where my camera is, over here, at the red face and the grey face, right? So this is called the dire safe lane tower. Actually, I think it's better to go to a new replay and I'll make it a little bit clearer. We don't want as many hero clutter there. Alright, so we pause for a bit and we see the following. Take a look at the minimap, right? If you see over here, this is the safe lane tower for red, the dire. This is the middle line on the map, right? This is the middle line. This is where all the creep waves meet. So if the creep wave meets here, and the tower is here, which offers protection, and it also offers armor aura and regeneration of life, then this is very close to this indeed. And that makes it safe. By comparison, this tower is much further from the middle line. It makes it further away. They call this the Radiant, green is Radiant, off lane. So part of the goal for green, Radiant, is to pull this wave back here so that they continue to meet here instead of here, which makes it far more risky for Dire, red, to farm here, as you can get reinforcements from your tower, you can get the tower shots, you get the regeneration and the armor from the tower, and this is kind of like a little mini game. But initially, offlane starts at risk, and that influences the type of heroes that are valid to be picked for Radiant in the offlane, because you're more at risk. The way back to the safety of your tower is further. The symmetry is real. On this side, the green Radiant tower is near the middle point of the farm meeting, the creep wave meeting. And that's why the safe laner, the carry, the baby, right? The late game insurance, the major farmer, they start, position 1 starts at your safe lane so that you're at a safer place to be. At least initially. Later, nothing is safe anymore, right? So the 1 and the 5 go here. That means that the red Dire 3 and 4 go here. The 2s meet in the middle. And then on the other side, it's flipped. Dire 1 and 5 against 3 and 4. So now you kind of know what kind of heroes are picked where and why. And that initially this tower secures safety as the wave meets here and the tower is right here, right? And the tower can fire until here. Now you know why people go where they go. And that's the initial Dota. Supports are also in charge of buying vision. Vision can be purchased via observer wards and sentry wards. Observer wards see things, but they don't see invisible things. But they see a lot of normal vision. The sentry wards see invisible things, but offer no natural vision. So the combination of an observer and a sentry ward together in the same place offer invisible true sight and actual vision. So when you place the two of them, you can be sure that there's no enemy there. This is an example of an observer ward, but some people did some trolling and they renamed their observer ward, which you can do in Gabe's in Dota's client. You can rename it to sentry ward, but that's trolling. It's very confusing for nooblets. But this is an observer ward, and it took me a long time to recognize one from the other, and then that's without that trolling, yes. So anyway, this is an observer ward. You see the eye, and if you see like a sentry ward, it's like more muted. It's like a kind of a purple, dark night color glow. This is a sentry. I mean, I don't think it's very clear, but I know this is a sentry. You see like the little eye, the purple eye above it? Sentry. This one doesn't have the purple. It's an observer ward. But there's one exception to the whole vision thing. This vision ward is green, as you see on the minimap. That means it's a radiant vision ward. Dire will be seen if they're here, but there's one exception. There's a very special tool, a very special sauce in Dota 2. It's called the Smoke of Deceit. Smoke of Deceit is a team invisibility. You buy it, it's very cheap. You make your whole team invisible. And then you can move around very fast and invisible, even invisible to wards. And there's only 3 things that make you visible. 4. 1, it times out after 45 seconds. So you got 45 seconds to do a major incursion, a major invasion. The second thing is if you're in proximity to an enemy hero, suddenly, boom, smoke is gone, right? The jig is up, you are seen. The third one is if you're near to an enemy tower. You cannot go here with the Smoke of Deceit and still be unseen. And the fourth one is if you perform a basic attack. You do a basic attack. You are allowed to cast spells and remain invisible, though the opponents may catch the spell effect, like seemingly out of nowhere. Those are the 4 things that will end it, right? So the smoke is whenever you hear people about we should smoke, can we smoke? It never means tobacco. It always means, can we group up as a team, either 3 people or 2 people or 4 or 5, and go somewhere invisibly and try to get a surprise attack on the opponent. And it's sometimes the only way to travel the map, especially a hostile map, and retain the element of surprise. So now you understand a bit about the vision. And then finally, let's talk about how to win the game. You win the game by killing the throne. The Ancient, I should say. The Ancient can only be attacked when these 2 towers are dead. These are called the tier 4 towers. Both must be dead before you can attack the throne. These towers are only attackable once one of these 3 towers is dead. These are called the tier 3s. These are the tier 4s. You can only attack these towers if one of these 3 tier 3 towers is dead. Right? These tier 3 towers are invincible until one of these tier 2 towers is dead. You get the point, right? There's layers to this onion. And then finally, those tier 2s are invincible until one of these outer tier 1 starting towers are dead. So the way to victory is to get a tier 1, then a tier 2, then a tier 3, then get both tier 4s and then the throne. But there's a little bit more to it than that. Dota has comeback and slowdown mechanics. Every 5 minutes, someone is allowed to use the Glyph of Fortification. It will last 7 seconds on structures and 4 seconds on creeps. It will make all buildings invincible for 7 seconds. You can use this once every 5 minutes, and it makes every tower except the first one multi-shot 6 targets. It will respawn after 5 minutes, but there's additional respawn reasons. The first time you lose a tier 1 tower, any one of the 3, you gain a free reset on the cooldown for Glyph of Fortification. That means what it avoids, it has many conclusions after that, but what it avoids is that someone will kill your tier 1 tower and immediately with the surge of momentum that they have also kill your tier 2 tower. This cannot happen because, well, you glyph this one once, 7-second delay, they kill it, they move here, you have another glyph. And usually that's enough to take the wind out of their sails. And that's also true for the first time you lose a tier 2 tower. And it's true for the first time you lose your tier 3 tower. So you are guaranteed 1 glyph at the start, 1 after tier 1, that's 2, 1 after tier 2, that's 3, and 1 after tier 2. So you are guaranteed 4 glyphs per game, but usually you'll see like 5 to 10 glyphs used per game because of the cooldown regeneration. So that's a lot of slowdown on your opponent having some kind of push comp. Finally, one of the most interesting things about Dota 2 is the Glyph of Fortification. Minions are like walkers in The Walking Dead. Lane minions, lane creeps I should say, lane creeps. This green one and this red one. They're like walkers in The Walking Dead. Every now and then they'll get a kill, but mostly they serve to be killed. In great numbers. Cannon fodder. A plot armor to show the drama of the show. It would have been the same here. Initially, creeps can do damage when you're level 1 and 2, but eventually you end up just blazing through the creeps. Look at the mid game, the late game. Oh man, you know, those creeps, they give you gold, they give you XP, and they give a lot of it actually, a lot of gold and XP, but you kill them with an afterthought. You certainly don't need them to kill a tower. You could kill this tower in late game in 10 or 20 hits. However, there is a thing called backdoor protection. Structures take greatly reduced damage, incredibly reduced damage, and quickly regenerate any damage taken if there are no enemy creeps nearby. And that means it is not impossible, but it is virtually impossible to kill this tower without allied creeps nearby. What's nearby? Like here or something. When the creeps come here, this tower loses that insane regeneration and armor. So what does that mean actually for how the game is played out? Well, it means that you must kill the enemy creep wave, and then you walk with your creep wave, and then you attack tower. This creates a kind of pacing. It also creates counterplay. The opponent can kill your creep wave when it's here, so that by the time you want to get here, you can't take down the tower. Someone could be hiding in the bushes here and kill your creep wave and disappear, and then kill your creep wave and disappear. And they can do that over and over, and this is called cutting creeps. And that means that this tower never becomes killable. And this creates a mini game of stealth warfare on the map that goes far beyond the just bashing together of 2 stubborn goats their heads against each other and to see who's strongest. It creates a level of tactician gameplay that is incredibly deep and satisfying to master, or frustrating to get wrong. Sometimes your whole team is winning, you kill all the enemy heroes, and you're just pushing, and in Heroes of the Storm you would just push and win, and in League of Legends you would just push and win, because there's no backdoor protection, there's no buyback, right? Everyone is dead, you have a lot of damage. In League HOTS, you win the game. But in Dota, one enemy can start cutting waves, they can start manipulating the map, and suddenly your base becomes untouchable. There's also buyback, of course. There's also Glyph of Fortification. So there's 3 mechanics here that allow you to make a comeback. And that means that Dota does not have, nor usually need, a surrender function. In an ideal world. What actually happens often is, of course, that people do lose heart, they do lose courage, or they are so far back that even all of these techniques cannot allow you to make a comeback. Also, it's not always the best mood or morale in a public game to stage a comeback, because faith has been lost, trust and amicability has been lost between public teammates, to the point that people don't want to try anymore. And this, of course, you know, this happens, and then people go AFK and they give the win and they call it let them end. But every now and then you get games that are nearly impossible to win, but you do an amazing set of macro plays that allow you to get back into the game and actually win the game. We had a really cool game recently. We were losing. I was Enigma and I stood over here and I kept killing this creep wave and pressuring tower. This tower kept taking damage. And my team was hugging themselves together in the snow cabin, hugging for what little warmth there could be in this avalanche of hatred and aggression from our opponents. Our opponents stood here with the 5 of them. They were much stronger than us. They wanted to go up here and attack and win the game. We had been losing many fights. And here I am, just killing one wave and another and another. Ideally, I would be cutting the bottom wave so that they can't push at all, but I didn't dare to, and that's not where I was. They didn't make a lot of headway on killing this tower. They would have loved for us to charge out of the gates like the Rohirrim in the defense of Helm's Deep, but we didn't. My team stayed here and the enemy stayed here. Eventually, this pressure made them so impatient that a fight broke out. It was messy, it was dirty. They had gotten frustrated that they started losing their tower. My team starts the fight. It was half here, and half here. That's 1.5 of a fight, I know, but it's weird, but it's true. I town portal in. We fight. I black hole their carry. Bam, we won the fight. And without split map pressure, it would not have been possible, because it would be simple for the opponent. It would be 5 versus 5. No one getting any headway. No one getting anything done elsewhere on the map. There is no mental pressure, no economic pressure. They're not losing anything. There's no risk. They can stay here and go up or don't go up. So by creating pressure, by creating stakes, it forces the opponent's hand sometimes. Either they can leave and deal with me, or they can go up and just Leroy Jenkins in and see what happens. And this is a cliff. There's mischance. There's no mischance, is there? This is a cliff. You need to funnel through the area of effect that the opponent can inflict upon you. This is a stronger tower than the other ones. You don't initially have vision of the high ground, so there's lots of disadvantages against you when you walk up and attack these towers. There is mischance. Oh yeah, there is mischance. 25%, yeah. I've explained most of how a game of macro and how a game of Dota 2 works. There's one more thing to explain. Maybe 2, maybe 5, maybe 20. These are called the barracks, the range barracks and the melee barracks. Creeps are a great source of calcium, protein, gold, and experience. And when you kill the enemy barracks, your creep of that same type, let's say you kill the range barracks, your creep of that same type, the ranged unit, becomes big, having double health, double damage, and giving half the amount of gold. Do the same to the melee barracks. Now both of your creeps are big. Very tanky, a lot of damage, hard to kill, right? And not that rewarding. And this is how you also additionally apply split map pressure to an opponent, so that they can't as easily leave this lane, because eventually that lane, they're called mega creeps, will push in so hard it will start to take down your tier 4 tower without any other hero of that faction helping them. Kill all 6 barracks and you get mega creeps in every lane that are super strong. The Dire has spawned mega creeps. It's a very scary message for everyone. Okay? So, besides just killing Throne, there are ways to subjugate your opponent, to bring them to their knees, and instead of trying to win, you make it impossible for them to win, and then your victory shall follow. Sun Tzu, Art of War. There is another way to get an advantage. Roshan. Roshan is the boss. Every MOBA has a boss. Sometimes it's called Baron Nashor, sometimes it's called the boss, very simply, in Hots of the Storm. Right? When you get this, you get an Ankh of Reincarnation. One of your heroes can pick up the Aegis. You respawn after 5 seconds with full health and mana. You also get a nice chunk of experience and gold for your whole team. Taking Roshan is a power play that is essentially a neutral objective placed relatively neutrally. And it's an objective to fight for, it's an objective to protect, it's an objective that can be snuck, taken, ninja style, and it gives you momentum. It means that you can play a lot more risky on that hero. They need to. So when we speak of objectives, it means killing towers, killing racks, and killing Roshan. That's Dota 2 in a nutshell, and the depth of Dota 2 is why I enjoy the game so much. You will try to work together with your 4 nitwit allies that fail to see your genius. And all together, you try to come together and create a culmination of teamwork and critical force to win against the opponents, who are all using imbalanced and overpowered heroes, and here you are on your respectful and mannered and tasteful heroes, right? You've got all the odds stacked against you. 1v9, you go egoista mode, you become strong, and then you win. And it's great. The average length of a Dota 2 game is between 25 to 55 minutes. I would say the golden average is about 35 to 40 minutes. So it's definitely longer than the other MOBAs. Here's an example of my game length recently. As you get better, game length becomes a little shorter. Especially at the highest level, you've got a lot of 15-minute games. It's because they actually want to quit after they lose. Because sometimes it's very lopsided because of account buyers or smurfs or something. But on average, 35 minutes for me is normal. But when I was lower level, when I just started, it was almost always 50 plus minutes. Here I've got a 1 hour 20-minute game. There's a 22-minute game. Got a lot of 26-minute games there. Here it's like 30 to 50. So definitely longer than HOTS and Dota 2. That's Dota 2. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask me at any time during the stream. I explained this outside of playing a live game because it is far too complex to do while I'm also playing. I hope you enjoyed and learned Dota 2 a little bit more and why it's such a great game.